Excellency Dr. Mr. Issa, Madame Rola, thank you very much for joining us, and distinguished panelists, delegates, especially the youth representatives of the Action for Climate Empowerment. Great pleasure to welcome all of you to share this platform with you. It's a really great honor and a pleasure that we get together, and I really sincerely hope you're all well, safe, in good health, you and your families. So before we start, I'd like to pass on to my colleague and friend James Graber. He will do the introductions and then we'll move on from there. James.
Thank you, Luis. Good morning. Your Royal Highness, Princess AGYLE, distinguished speakers, focal points for Action for Climate Empowerment, youth representatives, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants. James Graber, the Director for Mitigation at UN Climate Change Secretariat. In our division, we support the work of the 6 Regional Collaboration Centers. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the webinar, the opportunity for green recovery in the post-COVID-19 scenario in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement, the role of youth. This webinar has been organized by the Regional Collaboration Centre based in Dubai, which is established collaboration between the UN Climate Change Secretariat and the World Green Economy Organization. RCC Dubai covers countries in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, and facilitates support to climate action efforts of stakeholders in the region. The webinar is additionally being organized in the context of AGYLE, the Academy for Global Youth Leadership Empowerment. The objective of the Academy is to empower youth in the region to participate in and promote the green economy and climate action agendas. Thank you all for joining us today at this webinar. We envisage this webinar and other similar events will contribute to the strengthening of youth engagement and further information and further inform and involve young people in the region to support and drive the vision to build back better from current crisis while accelerating the concerted efforts that national, regional, and global levels in the context of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. With that said, allow me to begin the proceedings by introducing to you Her Royal Highness Princess AGYLE, who has graciously accepted to moderate the webinar today. We would like to thank her for this, but also for her tireless commitment in ensuring that youth, particularly from developing countries, are offered opportunities to be empowered, to engage and participate meaningfully in the promotion and creation of climate resilient societies. Among her many, many responsibilities, she is also the initiator of Mama Light Initiative and special envoy of the President of Burkina Faso for resource mobilization for SDGs and climate change, which makes her expertise particularly meaningful and valuable for the moderation of the discussions today. Let me give the floor now to Her Royal Highness Princess AGYLE. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, for that. I'm very emotional and touched. You know, it's together that we change the world. You also bringing on the table more than 20 years also in the field. We thank you so much for that. And everyone here is an expert in his field and have been working very hard. And it's my great honor and pleasure to be moderating, to contributing today. We will be having 2 panel sessions. The first one we will have a keynote and constructive remarks for expert people really who understand from the policy level. And the second part will be really going deep with our youth, our leaders on the field, the rainmakers, the system, because they are our sustainability. So with that, so I wish also, as is the tradition in my hometown, I wish to acknowledge and to recognize the ruler of Dubai for his strong leadership and for supporting, for hosting this in his country. Your Highness, really please accept my deep esteem. So, and also before starting, I wish also to show compassion to our brothers and sisters in Lebanon who's really suffered and lost their loved ones. And thank you, my sister Rola, for taking the strong leadership and helping being with the people out there. So I'm going to introduce, really I'm fan of Mr. Issa Pasteki because he's a doer. He's walking the talk, getting back home to say, well, I have learned and I want to transfer. This is so strong. And we thank you for that. Noticing that the mismatch between the academy and the curricula of the business, readjusting it. This is leading by example. And you know, I'm not surprised that it has been distinguished by the highest prize of the Emirates in science, and also putting in place, contributing and having the Dubai silicone. This is fantastic. And of course, we all thank you for the launch of Hope. So without further ado, I would like to listen your keynote, Doctor. We all, and again, shukran for all you have done. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Thank you for this excellent introduction. This is my honor to be a part of this group, very elite group. And I would like to thank you all for joining this special event, which is very important, I think, for the youth in general. And so this is on behalf of His Excellency Saeed Mohammed Al-Tayar, Chairman of World Green Economy Organization. Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, esteemed guests, gentle ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everybody. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. I think it's very important. We need to work hard because the youth are the future of our world, and we need to take care of them from now. They are going to build our future. So on behalf of the World Green Economy Organization, WGEO, we are very pleased to be hosting this important event in collaboration with our partners, the UNFCCC Secretariat, through the Regional Collaboration Centre, RCC, in Dubai. I thank the organizers and our partners for making this event possible. Of course, in line with the directives of the WISE UAE leadership and its support in the establishment of World Green Economy Organization and the Regional Collaboration Centre in partnership with UN Climate Change Secretariat, we are in a strong position to support the concerted efforts on the recovery of economies in partnership, of course, always with young people and other stakeholders working towards the SDGs and the objectives of the Paris Climate Agreement. I think our leaders in the country have already recognized the youth, have recognized the women, and they are working hard to make sure that they are a part of this development of the country. So I think it's very important to look at leadership of UAE and see how we work to make things happen. It is imperative that we seize this opportunity to achieve a radical change and make green recovery a reality. We are fully confident that the challenges of COVID-19 will not be an obstacle to achieve our vision and mission to advance the global green economy transition and fight climate change. I think COVID-19, even though it was a pandemic and a crisis around the world, but at the end, there are some sectors that benefited from. One of them is the green economy. As a leading global organization committed to promoting the green economy agenda, we must believe in our ability to rebuild our lives, our cities and our economies based on the foundations of green growth. Restoring our health without restoring the safety of our planet will not be a safe and sustainable solution. So it goes hands in hand. You have to look at it carefully, economically feasible, green economically feasible, plus you look at the lives of people. I think they go hands to hand. So we need to make sure that we balance this thing. And this is our chance to rethink our plans and raise climate action and green economy ambition with the support of a very important segment of our society, the youth. We are all aware that the coronavirus pandemic around the world has greatly disrupted our way of life. It has. Some look at negatively, some look at positively. even though they're negative things, but always they are positive in them. Our economies, our businesses, and our social interactions in ways we could never have imagined before. Now is the time for us to work together in effective ways to move forward as a unified global community and to act immediately in harmony to bring about the desired positive change. Always you have to look at it positive. Everything should be positive. We have to have positive energies to make things positive. The youth have a pivotal role in leading and directing the transition to a safe and sustainable future. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President, Prime Minister, and the ruler of Dubai, says about the youth, the ideas of young, actually it was last Thursday, it was in Youth Day, he said that the ideas of young people, their energies are our fuel and our security. In addition, as well as His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Commander-in-Chief in the Armed Forces, said in UAE, youth is the most precious resource and the most sustainable energy. Completely correct in all senses. It makes really sense. The young generation is already leading the way towards green and sustainable economies and societies. Their efforts in this transition towards a green economy must be recognized, appreciated. In the UAE, young entrepreneurs, by the way, we have young leaders, young ministers, so we're looking at young leadership in general. Young entrepreneurs play a pioneering role in harnessing innovation to develop technologies and enhance sustainability and provide efficient solutions to environmental risks. In the UAE, we understand the importance of creating space and opportunity for young men and women to play their role to the fullest. And when we say fullest, we mean it. In this regard, WGEO will be organizing Global Youth Hackathon virtually to promote green economy action around the globe, and also deploying WGEO youth experts in various regions to accelerate the green action. And I like to look at it green action. It's a very plural, even though I don't need to call it actions. We are inspired by the ideas and initiatives of youth around the world that are leading the way. By the way, if you look at the NASA, that's 1969, when they went to the moon, the average age of the people around this project was 27, 26. So most of them were youth. When we also launched the Hope probe to Mars, again, our average was very low. It was less than 25. So at the forefront of our mission is the drive to involve the youth to take on challenges and become agents for change in the social and economic fields, as well as environmentally protected and technological innovation. To advance this mission, WGEO has established a dedicated platform for youth. We believe that adopting an integrated approach and working hand in hand with the younger generation is the right opportunity for the international community to recover sustainability from this pandemic and drive forward the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and United Nations Decade of Action. Actually, even University of Dubai, either they're the first or the second in the world that a campus is completely net zero energy campus. We are not emitting any carbon. It's completely zero carbon footprint. We are completely depending on solar energy. So we have a solar park in the University of Dubai, which is very interesting. And in 5 years, it'll be economically feasible. We're going to completely cover the costs. And then after 5 years, it'll be economically feasible plus environmentally friendly and feasible. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we renew our welcome to all the young people, our colleagues and our partners who have joined us from around the world. We look forward to the discussions that will take place today to explore the various ways to overcome the challenges facing the international community. Let us be actively innovative and not passive. Let us be proactive and not reactive, even though sometimes we need to be reactive, but at the end we have to be proactive all the way. So we have to look at scenarios of the future. We have to look at the foresight of the future, see how we can take care of things could happen suddenly. I think already there is a Center for Future Studies in the University of Dubai. We are looking at that, these scenarios. So let us all join the youth in mission to build forward better from the global crisis. Thank you, and I wish you a good day and a fruitful discussion. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, your Director Bastaki, who's the president also of the University of Dubai. Thank you for that commitment, and also again we wish to thank His Highness for his commitment, putting also the budget out there to support the youth, who's the change maker. Thank you so much. With that, I wish to introduce my sister, Rola, who's really, she's a fantastic example. When the rules doesn't exist, use the legal framework to make the change. Be constructive. She has taken the path with the parliamentarians to make law for women's rights, for not forgetting the youth. And look where she is right now, and sharing with us her insight in the MENA region. I know that we should also to acknowledge your report on the post-COVID recovery in the MENA. That was such a fantastic work. And you also emphasizes that 42 billion approximately income will be lost in 2020. And as well, more than 88 million people will be pushed back into poverty. So, but I think also that is a window of hope that we can bring it upside down and create opportunity. We really look forward to listen to your insight and your constructive remarks. The floor is yours. Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody, and it's a pleasure to see all of you safe and in good health. I'm very glad to be with you today at this webinar on the role of youth in a post-COVID green recovery, which is a very critical issue to tackle at that moment. As you all know, almost half of the Arab population is under 25 years old, where the region youth are pushing to shape the future we build. They are playing leading roles in rebuilding our communities from war, conflict, crisis, and disasters. After the tragic Beirut explosion, for example, it was inspirational to see youth volunteers that self-organize themselves via social media and selflessly support victims and contribute to the cleanup. Arab youth have shown themselves to be resilient and motivated by their belief in a better tomorrow. Yet, in face of this promise, the 2020 Arab Sustainable Development Goals report tells us that we are not on track to achieve the SDGs. The region continues to lack on poverty, inequality, healthcare coverage, social protection, and sustainable energy, food, and water availability for all. The Arab region were also off track on the youth-focused SDGs even before COVID-19, where 25 million Arab youth are not in education, employment, or training, pushing youth unemployment rate to 23%, the highest in the world, with unemployment among young Arab women more than twice that of young men, reaching 42%. Meanwhile, 85% of young working age Arabs operate in the informal sector with limited or no access to social and health insurance or credit facilities. The impact of COVID has only worsened the situation, where ESCWA finds that 17 million jobs may be lost, particularly among youth, and over 14 million middle-income Arabs may be pushed into poverty. To mitigate COVID impact and build back better, the Arab states should seize the opportunity and move towards low emission energy efficient and climate resilient development pathways. I'm very glad to hear how successful and how committed the UAE is going forward and leading the path in green recovery, and advance national and sectoral climate adaptation and mitigation targets so as to protect present and future generations and reduce costs.
So we lost the connection of Ms. Rola. If you hear me, we have some technical we don't hear if the technicals can help us. So if we...
I think it's from her side.
That's her side, yes. We give her a more 5 seconds, and really she's the executive secretary of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia. It's really what she was saying is really critical. If I can build on the waiting for her, that the youth are in the informal sector, and indeed youth and women who's really the engine of economies and the countries are. So then if we, with your permission, maybe I can move on to our next speaker, and then I will give her the floor after to communicate. Thank you so much for your understanding. So then I'm turning to our big friend of all the youth in the world, because he always give the opportunity to the youth to engage with the UN system, with himself, and learn. Is Mr. Owais Zahmat, who is the Deputy Director of the Secretary General of UNFCCC and also Assistant of the UN Secretary General. He bringing with us more than 27 years. He knows what are the hurdles, how to overcome, and also bringing that awareness with the climate crisis. This is extremely important, and we would like to hear from you, Mr. Zahmat, your input regarding to the Paris Agreement that you are part of the architect. So the floor is yours.
Very much, Your Highness, Princess Jigma, and for your friendship, your support, and your collaboration in many events and areas of our work. It really means a lot, and we're very, very grateful for that. Thank you very much. Look, I've already mentioned all the colleagues who are online, and my deep appreciation and respects to everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to share some thoughts, and these are important messages on behalf of the entire organization here at the UN Climate Change Secretariat. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Regional Collaboration Centre in Dubai, which has recently been set up by our colleague Taimur, who's with us here. He's the silent observer, but they are the ones who actually do most of the work, and we are the ones representing. And the World Green Economy Organization, who are the hosts of the Regional Collaboration Centre in that part of the world. Extremely important. This is one of our very important areas of collaboration with the MENA region, and for that I would like to also express my deep appreciation to Madame Rola. I hope we'll hear back from her when she is able to join. Let me begin by acknowledging the circumstances of our conversation today. As we all know, we are living through exceptional, unprecedented times. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused suffering and hardship in every country of the world. There is no country which has been spared. The human and economic losses it has brought upon the world were unimaginable only a few months ago, and our world has really changed significantly and without any clear signs of what it will become when we come out of this crisis. This makes COVID-19 the most urgent threat facing humanity today. But the question is, and I thank you all for raising this question here today, how does this crisis relate to our biggest threat in the longer term, which is climate change? I'd like to highlight three main points to answer that question. First, that the pandemic has by no means paused the climate emergency. Second, that despite the hardships and sufferings of COVID-19, it has opened a rare window of opportunity to accelerate global climate action. And finally, that this crisis has given us some useful insights regarding our ability to tackle a global crisis. But let me begin by looking at some of the facts from the first half of this year, which is fresh in our memories. 2020 started with the hottest January ever recorded. Subsequently, every single month in 2020 was among the respective top 3 warmest months on record. In Siberia, a heat wave took temperatures in the region to 38 degrees Celsius, 18 degrees above the average for this time of the year. The summer, which countries in Middle East have suffered from a heat wave that took temperatures in Baghdad, for instance, to 52 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature ever measured in that city. And just yesterday, we also read that in California in the Death Valley, it recorded the highest temperature on Earth ever, which is 54.4 degrees Celsius. And the list goes on. These events illustrate something we already knew before the pandemic hit. We simply cannot delay our response to the climate emergency any further. We need to see substantial and sustainable progress on climate action this year, 2020. And this leads me to my second point. While these are unprecedented times, they are not without hope. And we all live in expectations that things will get better. And that is something that we all must do, especially for the youth. Amidst all the suffering and loss, our anticipated recovery from COVID-19 crisis has given us, as I said, a rare opportunity to catch up in the race against climate emergency. As we speak, we all know this, and we are reading it all in all media outlets. Many countries around the world are mobilizing historic amounts of money to restart their economies. The key question is, will we seize the opportunity this restart provides? Or will we use these packages to go back to normal? A normal where temperatures are rising, glaciers are melting, biodiversity is declining, and more people are exposed to climate disasters. Or do we want to be on the right side of the history and choose to recover better, to enact policies that address climate change, protect biodiversity, embrace renewable energy, and provide the opportunity for young people to work in sustainable sectors of the future? Some already say that it is too hard, too tough, too bad for the economy, that mapping out a more sustainable plan for the planet will take decades. The good news is we already have a plan, and you all know that plan. It's called the Paris Agreement. To follow this plan, countries have one major policy task going into this year in 2020, to submit new or updated national determined contribution plans or plans of action that they have committed to produce. This deadline cannot be changed. We simply do not have the time. Influencing the level of ambition, including the shape and the scope of these national plans, is the single most significant action leaders can take to shape climate policies, programs, legislation for the next 5 years. And all sectors of the society need to contribute to and support these plans. Finally, let me stress my final point. Nearly half the population, as was already mentioned by Madame Rula, in the MENA region is currently under 25 years of age. It is absolutely essential that we give this generation the means to become agents for change for a greener and more sustainable world. Also, as Dr. Esra Bastaki said, that we need to provide that positive and concrete examples and solutions to those younger generation. I have 2 young kids, and I always think about how they will survive, what they will do, and we need to really walk the talk, and we have the opportunity to do that. The economic recovery packages should become a part of that solution and help to create green jobs across the region. We need these investments to empower young people, not to stifle their chances for a healthy future. A future for which young people around the world have already been demonstrating throughout the past years, demanding that countries act based on the best available science and accelerate their climate action. Many people have told you that demands of youth are unrealistic or even impossible. No, that is not true. COVID-19 has proven that it is not true. It has shown that nations can, people can, if they are willing to act decisively and rapidly when faced with a global crisis. It has not always been perfect, but in the cases where multilateralism has been embraced, it has been effective. So therefore, I urge all of you to take this lesson on board to address the climate emergency that we all must do our part. It is possible, and we can build a better future. But we will continue to need all your support, and we at the Climate Change Secretariat are with you every step of the way. And as also been mentioned by the Princess, let me also express my deep sympathies for the events that have happened in Beirut recently. It's heartbreaking. People of that country and the region are extremely valuable, and we all have our hearts and efforts to help them rebuild, and we are all with them together. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Osvas, for your okay, sharp to the point, very concise comment, and pushing us to do what needs to be done, because indeed the plan is there and it's Paris Agreement. So we are really happy to have back Mrs. Rola to continue her fantastic words and comment. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Sorry, it's the electricity problem and internet connection in Beirut. But as I was saying, to mitigate the impact of COVID, the Arab governments have already announced over $100 billion in fiscal stimulus. And as well, as just mentioned, the international community also has rallied in support of Lebanon at the time of its need. However, more resources are required to achieve the Paris Agreement commitments in face of these multiple challenges that I have just mentioned earlier. Indeed, despite the need for concessional climate finance during these difficult times, loans exceed grants to the region by a factor of 5 to 1. Bilateral support to Arab states for mitigation exceeds funds for adaptation by 5 to 1 also, despite Arab states prioritizing water, agriculture, and food security in their commitments and recovery plans. And Arab LDCs, unfortunately, received just 2% of bilateral climate finance flows to the region, which means climate financing is not reaching those most in need. The quantity and quality of climate finance is thus central to any green recovery effort to build back better. Regional solidarity is also needed to support a green recovery. In a region where 31 billionaires owns as much wealth as half the Arab adult population, ASCO is calling for Arab governments to adopt a regional solidarity fund that could support regional recovery efforts and emergency aid for the Arab LDCs and countries overcoming crisis and conflict. As we face the dynamic and concurrent challenges caused by climate change, COVID, conflict, and falling behind on the SDG, we need a new growth model and economic stimulus that pursue a structural economic shift that supports green innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic diversification. A value-added economic activities with better quality jobs and qualified workforce, and an inclusive human capital and infrastructure for improved productivity with concerted efforts to close the inclusion gap for women, youth, and minorities. Meanwhile, we need to direct stimulus towards initiatives that engage youth, such as revisiting national development planning to promote a new vision for education and employment that meets the needs of a green job market in an inclusive manner and ensure youth engagement. As well, mainstreaming education about climate change in national education and training strategies, as well as promoting socially distant public works programs that engage youth in restoring green infrastructure, and last, empowering youth to take leadership roles in building back better by fostering opportunities to contribute to regional knowledge base through digital technologies, which can inform climate decision making and empower climate action at the community level. To end, we must all be committed to a green recovery that builds back better for a brighter tomorrow. We know that Arab youth can rise to the occasion to help to lead the recovery efforts. ASQA, through its Arab Center for Climate Change Policies, stand ready to support all of you and work with you and engage with Arab youth to advance sustainable development and to build stable, just, and flourishing Arab society. Thank you very much, Your Highness, for giving me back the chance to speak. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much. This was just outstanding, really. That I recognize my sister there. Definitely greening, drinking, engaging with our youth to make the difference and build forward better. Thank you so much for your leadership. And of course, we're going to work together. So now we will be moving to the second panel session. Please stay with us because you have, you see more than 100 years of experience around this table, even more. And you will learn a lot with the good thing when you exchange, you gain. And experiences you never lose. Please then stay with us. And we will be doing the wrap up later from our distinguished speakers. And you know, they do care. The thing is that we do care about each other and we want to move along together. And that's what my sister Marina Ponte is doing. She's the Global Director of the United Nations SDGs Action Campaign, and she's doing a tremendous work connecting, mobilizing, and going and implementing. So the floor is yours to discuss with our youth, and we want them really to bring on the table what's need to be done, because we're here to look to each other in the eyes, tell what needs to be done and how to accelerate and scale up. Thank you so much. Please stay with us. The best is to come.
Thank you, Royal Highness, for the introduction. And let me start by also thanking the colleagues and friends of UN Climate Change Secretariat for the invitation and for the opportunity to discuss with all of you 3 topics that are extremely important and dear to the work of the UN SDG Action Campaign: youth engagement, SDG and COVID impact on priorities and green recovery. On youth, just a couple of words because many data were already shared in the previous panel. Today there are 1.8 billion people between the age of 10 and 24, and this is the largest generation of youth in history. And we are anticipating in the next 15 years, up to 2030, an additional 1.9 billion of people will be turning 15. So we have a tremendous amount of asset and energy and potential, which we need to invest on to be able for them to lead the new generation. So the young people have already shown their leadership. They just need the skills, they need the opportunity, and they need access. So given these skills and opportunity, they can really lead the transformation which is needed. And let me just mention the Friday for the Future, this youth-led movement, which really helped to make a breakthrough and bringing the climate change issues on the radar of the public domain. Also, the Black Lives Matter recently really was also supported all over the world by young people, showing that the just society is something that everybody is entitled to. And also through the pandemic, young people show a tremendous solidarity and caring, and really were ready to help each other to actually confront and address these unprecedented, devastating crises. So that's why I'm so thrilled to be soon giving the floor to this young leader. And let me just mention that the pandemic has tremendously impacted young people, has really had a devastating impact on young people access to education, to jobs. I think it was mentioned very eloquently by the speaker in the previous panel. And also it has a tremendous impact on social, on cultural dimension, and also mental health. So young people have been disproportionately affected by the crisis, and I think that we all need to bring together our efforts to make sure that they are now given the right tools and the right skills and opportunity to build back their resilience and to build back their energy and their potential. And the third issue, which I think it's a very important priority for all of us gathered today, is about the green recovery. We at the UN SDG Action Campaign, we define this historic moment, a turning point for people and planet. We really believe that the current crisis, and I think it was mentioned by a couple of speakers of the previous panel, has brought humanity at a crossroad, and we see the possibility that the urgency and the severity of the crisis will produce the required bold decisions that are necessary to bring us on track towards the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. In other words, we see the possibility to achieve those two agendas through green and just recovery plans and policies. Renewable energy, social protection, universal access to quality health and education, decent jobs, and transparent institutions are just a few of the key elements that any just and green recovery plan should encompass. However, having those plans agreed, and even more importantly, having them implemented, will require involvement, engagement, and advocacy from all sectors of society, starting from young people and the youth movement. Within this context, I'm extremely pleased to now introduce you a very distinguished 5 panelists who will help us go into deep into looking at the youth engagement, youth solution, and youth action. So the first panelist that I would like to introduce is Nisrin El-Sain, and she is the General Coordinator for Youth and Environment of the Sudanese organization YES, and the chair of the Sudan Youth Organization of Climate Change. Nisrin is also a junior negotiator with the African group of negotiators in technology transfer, focusing on policy of countries regarding climate change and renewable energy. She was recently also appointed by the UN Secretary General as a youth advisor on climate change, along with other 6 young climate activists. So welcome, Nasreen. We're very pleased and honored to have you here. The second panel member is Omnia Omarani. Welcome, Omnia. She's a liaison officer for public health issues in the International Federation of Medical Students Association, representing 1.3 million medical students worldwide from 129 countries, quite a large representation. She has also been working on youth empowerment, planetary health and climate change advocacy in the past years, and focusing specifically on goal 3, 5, and 13. And then the third panelist from the youth movement is Aisha Mohamed Al-Remeti. She is a senior engineer at Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. And then she's also the Youth Council president of the same organization. She is a strong supporter of the green, clean energy and sustainable movement, as well as an advocate of youth, innovation and excellency. So welcome, Aisha, and it's really a pleasure to have you among us. And now let me also introduce other 2 key speakers. They are the national focal point of the ACE program, which stands for Action for Climate Empowerment. Let me first introduce Mr. Nedal Kadbel-Bader, who is the focal point for Palestine. He is the Minister Advisor for Climate Change, Environment, Quality Authority since 2010. And it's also Palestine National Focal Point of the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. And then the last but not least speaker is Miss Lydia Elewa, and she's the focal point for Egypt and is a manager on climate change researchers department at the Climate Change Central Department of the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency. She prepares database for international and national researchers and also technical reports on mitigation, vulnerability, adaptation, and technology transfer. So as you can see, there is such a wealth of passion, commitment, and professional skills. And we are extremely pleased and honored to have you here with us. So what I would like to do now is really give each one of you the opportunity to answer 2 questions, which are very key. And I would only ask you, because of the time, to really limit your answer to 2 minutes. So the first question, and we can first, you can answer going in the order that I've introduced you, is what are, in your view, the most common challenges in engaging and activating youth for acting to address climate change and for advancing the SDGs? And how do you suggest that these challenges can be tackled? So, Nasreen, I think you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad and happy and honored to be here with you today. I think COVID-19 gave us a small test on how the world would be with a changing environment and a changing climate. I think COVID-19 started to test our resilience and our tolerance to the different issues and different challenges from the environment and from nature. SDGs is about leaving no one behind, is about achieving sustained development for everyone, no matter what the age, no matter what the economical condition, no matter what of the nation or the geographical spot. COVID-19 also did not segregate between global south and global north. COVID-19 hit both very bad and very hard, and I think it's a great but very unfortunate test for our solidarity with each other and our ability to overcome this hardness. Young people are the most vulnerable in every issue because we are yet starting our lives, we are yet starting to build our personalities, and we are yet starting to go to the outer world. It's very important also to say, although we were more immune and we were more resilient or more adaptive to the COVID-19 and the recovery percentage were higher, but when climate change effects happen, we will not actually be the most youngest at that time. So dealing with the hard impacts and the massive changes of climate change will only occur when we will be, let me say, old. So it will be our responsibility to deal with the future changes of climate change, as it is now our responsibility to stop these changes. It's very important to say that UN system acknowledges and encourages young people a lot in doing climate action. This acknowledgement have been lifted to the upper and highest level at the UN. And now the announcement of the Youth Advisory Group for the SG is the biggest recognition of the youth efforts to climate change. We don't have any interest but the interest of the sustainability of the planet. We have no priorities above the sustainability of planet Earth, and we have no responsibility more responsibility than to maintain this planet for the upcoming generation. I think one of the most affected areas by climate change is the most affected areas by COVID-19, which is the least developed countries and the most vulnerable countries to climate change also. Well, as a young person, I also always recognize and also always point that everything we are doing in a collaborative way is going to be part of something in the future. We are like the rivers and we will end up in one place, all of us. So it really matters how we point ourselves. Which kind of print are we leaving? Are we leaving a green one or a carbon one? Are we leaving a good legacy for the coming generation, or we are leaving a destruction and unlivable world? Well, I think young people honestly and very clearly choose the side. It's about the rest of the world and the world leaders to take a side. It's either the sustainability of the planet or the destruction of the planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those inspiring words. And let me now turn to Omnia.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I would like to share two main challenges. The first one is a challenge that I have personally seen. So as a medical student, I have learned that my duty of care does not just lie to my patients, but also to my communities. Through my work on a local level in Cairo, national level in Egypt, and finally through my organization on a global level. I've been working for 5 years on youth advocacy, health, environment, and climate change. I have seen that there has been an increase in youth engagement. However, the challenge was seeing that there was a lack of ensuring that such engagement was A, meaningful, B, sustainable. As youth, we are really a very unique link. We see what is done, what is in there in the civil society, we see the needs and identify the asks of the people, and then we are very capable of taking such asks and such needs to the decision makers and the government representatives. That is why we don't just want to be only attending or present in high-level policy-making conferences or meetings, or as now what COVID has presented to us, webinars and virtual settings, but we want to work with policymakers. We want them to listen to us and work collectively with us in order to address the needs that we are seeing through our actions on a local level. The second challenge, which I would like to really share, is the lack of education and the integration of such fundamental global issues, such as climate change, but also the SDGs as a whole, in our own education, in our own curriculum. So for example, as a medical student working in my hospital, I have seen the health impacts of climate change. I have seen patients who suffered from anxiety and depression leading up to suicide due to climate change. I have seen heat strokes, I have seen asthma, and I've also seen physical injuries when there was any natural disaster that has happened. So even though I have seen these impacts, I have not learned about them in my own curriculum. And this is also not just in my own country, but also in less than 15% of medical curricula worldwide, there's a mention of climate change, which means that we need to act on that. And what I did is that we led a working group that developed a set of climate change competencies to be integrated directly in the curriculum. That is why I want to invite all of you and all of the youth advocates, as well as the government representatives and the decision makers, to take a look at the type of education that is there in schools and in universities and see and identify such gaps. See where the SDGs and the other global health issues can be integrated and set them in. And the final sentence and word for me, I think that reflecting on COVID-19, we need to stop prioritizing short-term solutions and start thinking about solutions that are long-term, that are sustainable, that also place our public health and the health of the environment at the center. Thank you.
Thank you, Amna. Thank you for reminding us of the importance of focus on long-term policy and solution instead of short-term gains and opportunistic choices. So I think this is particularly key when looking at climate change and other long-term development objectives. So let me now turn to Aisha.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction and for having me today and for the inspirational talks we've heard up to now. So in regards to the two main challenges, I can mainly sum them up in two words. First, to begin with, inclusion and awareness. So the youth nowadays have a lot of energies, and we've seen this in multi-sectors around the world. So the youth would like to abide more to a flat leadership style rather than having a hierarchy in leadership. And the flat leadership style actually manifests the youth's effort in different sectors. And a quote that's really hitting the spot on this is a quote by Benjamin Franklin, where he said, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." So involvement and inclusion is a very important sector in actually developing the SDGs. Now, as the SDGs are in a global context, we should always look for contexts to localize them, not only in the region, but in our specific countries, to pinpoint the strengths, the weaknesses, what are the opportunities and the threats, to develop a SWOT analysis of our specific region and map those SDGs and localize them accordingly. And in the UAE, we're happy that, to have the youngest minister in the world, and she has actually developed youth councils, which are advocating the efforts of youth in different sectors. And us as Dubai Electricity and Water Authority Youth Council, one of our main pillars is sustainability. And we've actually worked with different things, trying to different communication methods, let's say, like youth debates and youth circles in regards to the SDGs. And we tried even to tackle the point where showing people that the non-environmental aspect of the SDGs. So our youth debate was actually in regards to SDG number 5 about gender equality, and it put the point on, can we speak about women empowerment without considering and investing in men empowerment? And we had gender equality in both of the youth debate, the affirmative and the team against it as well. And the youth circle is in regards to the youth contribution to localizing the SDGs and harnessing technologies to achieve them. And the fruits of this youth circle were that to induce habitual changes in the youth, you would need to first change their belief. Once they believe in something, these habitual changes will become a behavior by time, which they will use in their daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. You made such a strong point about inclusion and engagement, and also reminded us of the importance of gender equality as a kind of a core, a core element to achieve all the sustainable development goals, including, climate change. And now let me turn to Nedar. Please, Nedar, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Professor Marina. Thanks a lot for the organizers for this invitation. It is my great pleasure to be part of this discussion as an ACE focal point for State of Palestine. In principle, it is extremely important to clearly understand that the youth of today are the decision takers and policy makers in the nearest future, and at the same time, they will be at the forefront to suffer from the impact of changing climate, which is really unexpectedly changing at a higher rate than anticipated. Observations and clues of this are so strong and are spread all over the globe. Our youth is our future and should be an integral part of our efforts to build back better, and should play an important and principal role in any decision-making processes, including the NDC planning and implementation, as well as the achievements of our SDGs. So coming back to the issue of the most important challenges we are expecting or we are visioning in that regard, I think from my point of view, I have two in my mind. The first one is, and this is generally speaking, and without addressing the geopolitical context, where the issue of North and South and the difference between the level of awareness in that regard, none to mention also the different countries have their specific own circumstances and challenges. So, and this is for both the governments as well as for the communities. So in principle, this kind of level of awareness, which is the limited level of knowledge and awareness, is a very important challenge. And I think all the speakers earlier, Omnia, Aisha, and Nisreen, they touch upon this issue, that we need more knowledge-based, more knowledge empowerment, more level of awareness in order just to know what does the climate change means, how does it have impact on our current lives, in our futures, in our next generations. So knowledge is extremely important, and the clear understanding is very important. So we need to understand the climate change impact. We need also at the same time want to understand, and the youth understand, what are the impact of the current policies on the near as well as on the far future. So both of these areas should be very clear to the youth. So knowledge is power. Arming young people with a strong knowledge base is a must, in addition to empowering them with the proper capacities and skills in order to be able to react to such kind of challenges. So I'm here talking about general phenomena, while we have exceptions here. We hear to our distinguished ladies, extremely important. I was very much motivated to hear from them, and I think they are really understand well what is in front of us. But this kind of knowledge, we need to have a very wide base of knowledge for all the youth around in the region. The second, and it was also mentioned by Omnia, the issue of inclusion. So the second challenge is the low level of engagement in the planning and the policy formulation. So the voices of the youth are not well heard. and they were not also consulted. The youth are not well consulted when we are preparing our national policies, plans, and when we are taking our decisions. So this may be also as a result of the lack of proper institutionalization of the youth communities. They are not well organized. They don't have the very proper, strong, well-functioned institutions. So this is one of the challenges. So we need there, in order from them to be well organized, in order to be able to address them, to approach them, which may be approached later by the relevant government agencies who are responsible and mandated for the national planning process. So this can be overcome by creating an enabling environment for active youth engagement, including and enhancing their involvement in climate resilient, green, low carbon business, and pave the way forward for easy, efficient, and swift engagement. In addition, capacity building for them is very much needed in order to ensure that they have the skills and tools to be better engaged. And this is only for the challenge, and I'll come back later on the second question. Thank you so much, and over from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidal. I think I really like your quote about knowledge is power, and also your reminding us, along with Omni and others, on the importance not just to have young people in virtual meeting or just appoint them, but to really engage them in the planning and in the designing of policy that will impact them and their communities at all levels. So I think this was a very important point. And now, Lydia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'd like to seize the opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the UNFCCC, WGEO, and Regional Collaboration Centre Dubai for such an important organizing webinar. I would like also to thank my colleagues, especially Mohammed Hamdi Darrag, for the efforts towards the ACE. Let me, in a few seconds, before I start answering the question, I'd like to thank two people, children and youth, whom I educate and train during 7 years. Children have taught me simple and direct, and also to be careful when choosing the language to reach the target we need to achieve. From youth, I have learned meaning of hope. They could help us to draw the present and the future for better life with quality and efficiency. The most two common challenges that you have asked, the integration among climate change, science, and policy making is needed to create a strategic picture in front of decision takers to be reflected in SDGs and action plans. And to tackle this challenge, more access to information is needed by using technology like database and internet. The other common challenge is climate change is moving faster than we are. In order to tackle this, more public participation and involvement from people, especially the youth, is needed to help in making and taking decisions towards climate action and green recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for your analysis, and also thank you for reminding us about the important role and priority around children. I mean, we're used to categorizing society into children, youth, but we need to look at having a more holistic approach. So I now will turn back to you immediately for the second and also last question to our panel member, and bridging back to the optimism that conveyed the previous panel. I would like you to end your contribution giving 3 concrete actions that, in your view, will make us build that better and create an even stronger and more sustainable society after the pandemic. So 3 actions. Lydia, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. The three concrete actions are create more opportunities for youth to decrease the unemployment ratio by finding innovative green jobs, as mentioned, and green transition through projects and investments. Collaborate nationally, regionally, internationally to finance climate change projects in mitigation and adaptation, especially the small and medium investment, in order to encourage them to be part of the solutions. Finally, further incentivize global cooperation to enhance ACE for the green recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for your concrete action and particularly the emphasis on jobs and on green jobs, which I think is crucial for the whole of the economy, but particularly for young people. And now, Nedal, can I turn to you for 3 concrete actions?
Sure, thank you so much. And I'm asking your indulgence to have it 5. But very brief and very direct and direct to the point. First is no more business as usual. So we should not do the same thing we did earlier and we expect something different. So we have to be innovative, creative, and think different. Second, ensuring an integrated and full spectrum approach. Look at the complete wider picture, including and bringing different things together in order not to work in different silos. The SDGs, climate change adaptation, mitigation, DRR, nature-based solution, poverty eradication, national development priorities. All these things should be looked at in one picture in order to be able to make efficient and most harmonized manner to be sure that they are integrated and they are complementing each other. Third, learn smartly from current pandemic. How global, unified, and harmonized efforts were efficient and successful in containing the virus so far. On the top is mobilizing sufficient at-scale financial resources. We heard about $10 trillion a year this year only in the crisis relief, while for the climate change we are suffering for many years for the materializing of $100 billion a year by 2020, which is not even materialized yet. So we have to learn from how we were able to do that for the pandemic, but we were not able to do it for the climate change. So 4, fight. This is my message for the youth. Guys, fight for your legitimate right for active engagement in a timely manner. Now and no later. It is your life, your future. Do not be tolerant or indulgent. 5, and this is my final point, enhanced empowerment of ACE platform is extremely important. We know that ACE platform under the umbrella of the UNFCCC is extremely important, but when we are comparing this to other constituencies which are more hot under the negotiations, we feel that really we need to have more empowerment for the ACE platform. Finally, only if you allow me, just I would like to draw your attention to the Intergovernmental Declaration on Children, Youth and Climate Actions that was announced last year, which reflects the priorities identified by the children, which are the coming youth and the youth throughout the world, which is very important and useful roadmap for our children and youth and their engagement. And thank you so much for taking more time than needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nedal, and actually thank you for bringing additional commitment and ideas and passion to this webinar. And now, Aisha, I turn to you for your actions.
Thank you. So the first one is, I believe, to map whatever entity you're representing, be it a private or government, semi-government, NGO, or even a working group. It can be that simple. To the SDGs, as they are 17 broad SDGs, they are interlinked. But when people start looking at them all at once, they're frightened to approach. So it would be best to align them with their primary SDGs. Choose whatever primary SDGs are in line with whatever work they're focusing on, and then focus the efforts on that, and then have a secondary group of the SDGs to branch from them. So for example, in DEWA, as we are an electricity and water company in Dubai, we have 6 primary SDGs, and all of our divisions in DEWA are working in line with these 6 primary SDGs, and indirectly. Second point, I believe, is, as I mentioned in the earlier question, to have inclusion rather than just have mere awareness. And this will induce habitual changes by time. And how can this pinpoint exactly inclusion? By focusing on the specific profession of the person you are approaching, or their specific passion. So not to let sustainability and the SDGs be a separate thing. It's always embedded. So to treat it as something embedded in your working culture, in your daily culture. And the last point is to always create forward-looking strategies as for the next 50 or 100 years, because as the pandemic came suddenly, we've noticed that we need to plan ahead for resilience and agility, to always be agile in treating any challenges that we are facing. And then after that, all related entities within your government or working group would be feeding separately into different areas of specialization to achieve a common goal that they are all looking forward for in the future. So to have a future-focused government, and to have excellent education, a diversified knowledge economy, a happy and cohesive society. And these are actually the 4 main pillars of the UAE Centennial, which is 2071, which is 100 years from the development of the UAE. So developing such strategies would further let people align SDGs, align their ambitions, their aspirations, as well as be agile in treating different challenges and as the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for reminding us of the importance of meaningful engagement of young people, and also of the importance to have very long-term strategies that go above and beyond the political cycle of each government. So I think this is really key to really build sustainable societies. And now, Omni, I'm glad you were able to connect back. Please, we want to hear your reactions.
Thank you, just in time. So I recently participated in an open letter that was launched and signed by over 350 million healthcare professionals from around the world. This letter was calling on having a healthy post-COVID recovery, which means that it puts health at the heart of the recovery, stimulus packages, and so on. So this takes me to my first concrete call to action to all the stakeholders. So I think it's really important to also place youth at the center of the recovery. Why? Because as youth, we are really very competent and facilitators, but also key stakeholders in order to build a green and sustainable healthcare recovery. We as youth, we have the passion, we have the skills, we have the commitment to shape our future. And we also are the generation, as also Nasreen mentioned, that will be impacted most by the decisions and the policies that are made today. That is why I would love to also quote the Lancet Countdown report that was released last year. And it said that every child born today has 2 pathways, either to survive or to thrive. And as youth, we choose to thrive. And then my second call to action, which comes from my experience working at the front line during COVID-19 in my university's hospital. I have seen how weak our healthcare system is, as well as how healthcare systems worldwide are very vulnerable, which is really a wake-up call to start investing in health. Now more than ever, to invest in establishing more strong and resilient healthcare systems that is able to sustain human life, but also a healthy planet. And now lies the open question of human response as well as political will to take course and change action. And now my final call to action would be for all youth advocates. First of all, to seek system solution, to collaborate with each other, to do the necessary research in order to produce evidence-based policy recommendations. And only then we can hold our policymakers and our governments accountable for the policies, for the recommendations that we have produced. Thank you.
Thank you, Omnia. And I think this was extremely inspiring, and it's amazing to see how many engagement strategies young people have been deploying across the world. Let me give now the floor for the final three action to Nasreen. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, one of the things that made COVID-19 a challenge for us was two things, actually. The first thing was the fast responsive actions. And I think we really need to start doing fast responsive actions to combat climate change as well. Because every day we delayed to take actions in COVID-19, we received more than 1,000 positive tested cases. Now in climate change, every day we delay our fast responsive actions, we will receive tons of greenhouse gases emissions. Also, the second is the financing. Well, financing COVID-19 was very hard, but the hardest part was financing the cure of the positive tested patients. So I think we cannot afford to finance the impacts of climate change. So it's really better to finance stopping climate change right now. As the old says, the second thing I want to talk about is the ACE itself, Action for Climate Empowerment. I really feel very emotional whenever I hear the word ACE or see it somewhere, because I negotiated ACE as a junior negotiator in 2017 in Bonn. The COP was chaired by Fiji, and I was the one who put the word youth in the text of the negotiation. But now, after 3 years of the negotiations, I still can't see any feet for the ACE. I see a lot of documents, papers, but there is no finance pipelines for the ACE. Young people around the world are struggling to receive funds from different agencies to take some action. And I really think we should all support people by not only bringing them to participate in different events, but also to empower them in their countries to do climate actions. The third thing is explaining the term of green or sustainable. Sustainable business is it's not a luxury; it's a must. Like plan to do a green job and sustainable business where other countries, emission countries, are still doing the same thing.
We have some technical issue. Okay, we could not hear your third action. I think it was about, if you can just bring out in one sentence, because there were some audio issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So my third action point was about the explaining of the term green business or sustainable investment. It's not fair to request developing countries or least developed countries to do green investment where the biggest polluters are doing business as usual, as I heard earlier. So green business or green investment should not only be in parallel with the business as usual, it should replace the business as usual entirely. So if we did not do that, then we are only delaying what will happen at the end. And as I said earlier, we really need to take very fast responses.
Thank you, thank you. This was very inspiring, and I think it was important for you to remind us in terms of the importance of financing and giving young people and a young people organization the resources and the access to the opportunity to make the engagement and the involvement we've been discussing more meaningful and really to have impact. And also thank you for reminding us of the kind of that we shouldn't go back to business as usual. I think it was mentioned by many speakers, and I think we all seize the opportunity to really have a breakthrough on several areas. I know time is not on our side, but I just have one question, and I let one of you respond to it. I think all of you mentioned some of the challenging and the action that the young people who are already engaged on climate have and feel and their priorities. But I would like to pick your brain and hear your views on strategy to engage those young people, and they sadly are perhaps the majority who are not interested, who are not engaged in climate change. So I let you raise your hand. I think Rola. And really help us understand how we can engage those people in our struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. And I was very pleased and delighted to hear the passion and the engagement and the commitment of our youth globally from various countries and continents. And I want to highlight something. We are focusing on the production side and the engagement and mitigating the impact of production side, and talking about the green technologies and involvement and the production business as usual, and how to mitigate the impact of it on our climate and environment. But I think now our youth needs to engage on the consumption side, and it's you who's driving the consumption path. And changing the behavior of the consumption will drive production in the way we want. So it's you who can drive it. You are the consumer. In our region, when 50 and 65% is under age of 29, these are the consumption power. And changing your consumption behavior is so important to have a positive and faster impact, because you will be driving the production towards what we all are aspiring for. So I hope collectively between you and us that we move on the demand side, on the consumption side, so to get a sustainable environment that we all want to live into it. This is one point. The second point I want to tell all our youth, as an activist, just be patient and keep your passion strong. You will have your ups, you will have your downs. When you have your downs, just remember there's the ups, and keep your momentum on. Going into and advocating for climate change is not an easy process. We are changing how the world functions and how the world consumes. So we collectively need to keep our passion. We need your energy. As Dr. Isa was talking about, your energy is not only our security, your energy is the change. I'll talk it the change, positive change bomb that the world needs. So we need that energy, and we need it to be used to sustain our environment and to balance it and to have a better well-being for the citizens of the globe. So don't get disappointed, don't get frustrated when things doesn't move as you expected. Just keep on, because they're persistent, your passion, your persistence, your energy is what's gonna drive the change. And I am so glad to see this commitment and passion you have. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us on the importance of individual action, and I think even the current COVID crisis shows us that in front of a global pandemic affecting everyone, the only response and the only positive strategy is through individual action and individual behavior. So I think it's a very important reminder, and let me now hand over to Nazreen, who wants to perhaps answer the question on how do we engage the rest of the young people.
It's very easy answer. To engage young people who are not engaged in the climate action, we need to make them understand. If they understood that they will not have a future if climate change happened, and continue happening, then they will be engaged definitely, because no one wants to die at the age of 20. The second thing is access to finance is not only a term we are using in the webinars. It's a reality that young people doesn't have enough access to finance. And this will handicap all of their actions. And I want to stress that if they did not have access to finance, even if it's in small amounts, then they will not feel frustrated, but their actions will be limited, and every limitation to any climate action will be limitation in the global action, climate action movement. Last and third, I really have a problem with the word engage. Young people should not be engaged in climate action. Young people are now leading actually climate action. So please let's not use the word engage, but use the word lead, because we are leading. We are not waiting for permission for anyone to engage us, but we are already leading the climate action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the reminder. And I think I also mentioned, talking about the Friday for Future, a youth movement, youth-led, that are really leading the debate and brought this topic to the public domain as never before. So let me now, I'm not trying to summarize. I think many important points were made. We are running out of time. Let me turn back to the moderator of today's discussion, Your Royal Highness. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Marina. This was exciting. And as I told you, stay tuned because it was so excellent. I said I was in the room when you were putting the youth on the and born. That is, you see what I was saying, use the legal framework to reach your point. The first incentive, it's law. That's what you need to know. As the young people, use your power of voting. You are the one who voting the MPs who made the laws. How to also get your green jobs. You need sustainable procurements, and when it comes to coal proposals. That was my statement at the ECOSOC a couple of years ago. And luckily, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta implementing it in Kenya, that 30% of any coal proposal need to go to youth. And when we talk about the youth, it's not only those who are literate in the cities, but also your brothers and sisters on the countryside. As you may know that a lot of them, they're growing the food that we're enjoying in the city center. And they're taking care of our soil. They are really the implementers of that historic Paris Agreement for inclusive green growth. I won't repeat what Mrs. Rolla has said rightly. It's not easy, but keep up. The good thing is that you have us behind you. When you think that is tough, we know that it will be tough. And it's good to always set the targets very high. If you don't put the bar high, you never will jump high. And that is very important. Access to finance, but finance at a good rate as well. We do know that money is not the issue. We see how COVID has stimulated the brain of all human beings to bring, when we are stressed, we go deep in ourselves to dig and take out what is the good part of human being. That's what COVID has shown. And you see how the youth come up worldwide with technology to save us. Really, I really thank you for all the apps who came out there from the youth. They work together across borders because technology is like climate. Technology also don't have gender, don't have religions, don't have color. And that is really what you succeed and you show to the world the way to do. And of course, the first panel we heard about the legal framework, Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goals, what that means for us as human in our daily basis actions. What I will add as well is that we need to capitalize all single action that we're doing. For instance, we are implementing in many ways the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, but as we're not assessing it, we cannot bring it up to our national government, even to the communities. Act local and influence global. This is what it is, the Paris Agreement, a bottom-up approach, because, and the SDGs as well, it has been a comprehensive discussion with all of us. And of course, we need to get out of our chairs and our rooms and go on the out there to do our jobs. And that's what I have been doing since long ago with the Marmalade Initiative for Sustainable Energy, that a lot of you knows and has been distinguished by the United Nations. Why that? Because you are my sustainability. That is the strong point. Our children is our eternity. Never forget that. And I like what Nesnu was saying, when in 30 years, I will be old. No, you will be still here because you will have kids who will be even billions times smarter than you are. And that is good that you're already paving the way. And this is the talk of today. And we really, before I cannot conclude following our tradition. I will let the last word to Dr. Essa Rasmeti to also give us, because it's so important that you stay with us to listen and see how he can help push what you are doing. So thank you again to all the listeners. Stay tuned and follow all of us with the Regional Collaboration Centre of Dubai. And I wish to thank all the Dubaites for hosting us and you in our heart. And so together we will win the race against climate change, because it's about human beings, it's about us. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. It was a very interesting session, very informative, and a passion was there. It was so beautiful. I was enjoying it, actually, every moment of it. The passion is very important. Of course, we all look at so many other things. I mean, empowerment is there. You see, when you look at any situation, any project, you need always to empower, but that's not enough. You need to also provide the tools. So if you empower, you don't have the tools, you youngsters, you youth, you have the power. We need to empower you. That's number one. Number two, giving power is not enough. We need to enable. If you need funds, you need it. You need any other kind of assistance, we're here to support. So I think, look at the future and look at the bright side. You are the ones who are going to create that green future. And as I said, University of Dubai started it. We have a green campus and a smart campus, and 100% solar energy, no carbon footprint. So this is just a beginning. Thank you. This is the beginning. And believe me, no matter how much we say, you are our future. But you have to have passion. You have to have a plan. You have to know how to achieve that plan. And then you need to set a goal. You set a goal, you have to do all these to make it happen. Even your youth can also empower others. Your youth can lead those followers who will create that example for them. And believe me, without you, there's no future. Full stop. We have done our job maybe 40 years ago or something, until 30 years ago. Now we are just building on those. But you are the ones who disrupt. We just now are working, we disrupted at the beginning. Now we are continuing to progress, but you disrupt. And in this kind of climate, you need disruption. UAE has gone to sent a probe to Mars, the Hope. Why do you think it's there? They're going there. Why do you look at the atmosphere? Because they can see, due to some reasons, the atmosphere has become so thin that anything could go through. Even it's not livable. Was there someday life there? This is your job to see that life should continue in the future. I'm not talking about 100 years ago, 100 years from now, 200, but thousands of years from now. And you will create that from now. Believe me, people think that green, that means to go green is very expensive. It's costly. And it's complete 100% wrong. We have proven that in the University of Dubai. It cost us 5.4 million dirhams, the project, which is the solar farm. And we paid Dubai Electricity and Water Authority 1.2 million per year. After 5 years, we recover. Then after 5 years, what happened? No carbon footprint, no emission of carbon, plus cost goes to zero. That means it is economically feasible. And all the private sector and the public sector should go and capitalize on this green economy. That's why you like to call it green economy, to make it green, but also to improve the economy and make it sustainable. So thank you all very much for these excellent speeches, beautiful thoughts. Keep that up and please disrupt. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, and that marks the end of our very exciting, but this is the beginning of disruption. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Stay safe. We love you. It's about happiness. Let's keep it. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All of you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Your Royal Highness, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll meet soon after COVID.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is an appointment.
Yes.